streaming is on.
Okay, let's see. Is my camera at work? Looks like it's struggling. Can you hear me, Vida?
I can hear you fine. I can't see you yet.
Okay, now maybe. We'll wait a few minutes. Let's see who else drops in.
Well, I'm just trying to get these slides.
Giving me a warning that the streaming is slow, so I'm gonna try and close some other things on my laptop.
Okay.
Hi there.
Hi, Doomy.
How are you, Amy?
Hi.
Hi,
Very
Vida.
good, thank you.
Just a sec. Let me enable my camera. Start camera.
The session is recorded only so you know that your face will be visible on the recording when you speak.
Amy, I'm gonna log back in so I can enable my camera, okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm gonna try sharing my screen. See if it works. You see it?
Yes, I see it also on the live stream. So it's all good.
Sweet. I can never see like the room as well. But I'll just keep it here. So I can't see people's faces, Amy said. Or the chat if I share my screen.
You should be able to see the pictures of the people on the side, on the right-hand side of the screen when you're sharing, I think. Or it doesn't do that for you.
No.
Oh.
I get this infinite mirror and then. So Hi.
I love that.
Yeah. The vortex. Let me stop sharing until you've checked in because it's not necessary, and then I can see your faces.
Why can I not?
My hair is looking terrible. No, don't look at me.
You're in good company.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
It's very hot here. I've been painting the whole day outside, and now I'm like.
Well, I think maybe you should start with a round of check-ins then, Mai, if you were to tell us who you are, where you're calling from, and what brought you here today.
So I'm in the Basque Country, really in the border between France and Spain. And I'm here because I participated with Kate. I'm very tired, sorry. I participated with Kate Swatridge and Aaron Kalala in Congo. We worked together for a whole year we wanted to help Aaron in evaluating their project in Congo. They were working on nutritious trees over there. So I've been being like a translator for them, and I came here to share my experience.
Thank you. Thanks, man. Great. Dumi, do you want to check in?
Yeah, sure. This is Dumi. I'm in Zuzu, Malawi. I think I may have received some funds from this before because I work with the school. Well, I don't work. I volunteer at a school where we were doing permaculture. Not really permaculture, but basically environmental stuff. And so I think we may have received some funds from this pot. And so I wanted to see if there are any further projects or something that we could work on and I could potentially tap into their funds.
Great. Fantastic. Amy, how about you?
I'm arriving good. I've been all day in my office, so it's hot outside. I don't envy you from having to be outside to paint. I was gladly inside in the shadows. And yeah, I've had a busy day. This is my last meeting today of the day. And I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to support Vida in her role. I'm the project manager of the Next Steps project, and Vida is the D&D, the diversity and decolonization coordinator for this year.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here as well. I so appreciate it. Yes, my name is Vida. I'm calling from the very cold Drakensberg Mountains. It's snowing outside and it's very nice and chilly. And I'm here. I've also received funds from this pod. This is one of the projects I'm really passionate about. So when I saw that the coordinator role was open and stayed open, I applied for it and I got it, and that's how we landed here today. It's something I've always supported, and I love this piece of CoLab. So yeah, with that, maybe I'll speak through how we're going to move today. So I have a very short presentation about what this fund is, but it sort of summarizes what is in the policy. So it's a little bit dry, and maybe for the audience we have here, that's not that relevant because we don't have so many new people. So I might work through it quite quickly, and then I really would like Mai to present her project and the difference that made for her. And Jimmy, if you want to speak to that as well, you could also present that. But then the rest of the time we will just have a Q&A and how to design a project. If you want to ask Amy any questions. The reason for having this session is that there are still funds available, but of course there is a short duration to use that funds in because it ends in October 10th. So that's the deadline for like our delivery of projects.
Okay.
But yeah, does that sound good to everyone?
Yeah.
Super. Okay, so wait, I think I'm not doing the screen sharing right. That's what it was. So if I just share here, no. Sorry, this Jira, interesting Jira, Jitsi, Jira, things that start with G. Okay, so what is our diversity communication plan? Can you see the screen here, Amy?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, great. Thanks for the patience. Okay, so what is it? So this is a fund. We have £5,000 a year. At this point, it's sort of accumulated because there was some left over from last year, so there is actually a little bit more at the moment. But the point of this fund is to create a more diverse, more accessible, more inclusive CoLab. This has been a goal of ours for all sorts of reasons, and we're just looking at bringing in all the diversity, whatever that means, right? And that's just like taken different forms over the years and different amazing projects. So there's two ways of getting access to the fund. The first is the grant, which is where two or more people work on projects which fall into a diversity and decolonisation category. And stipends are for individuals who qualify for the fund to join a team. So there's usually an activity happening. So the way that this looks different is a grant is something that typically gets used for a small team to go out and do a new project. For instance, they go and host a workshop on diversity, equity, and inclusion. Whereas a stipend is more like we've just had this example now where people go and get a stipend because then they're eligible for the grant firstly, and then they go and translate the user guide to another language, which of course makes the CoLab more accessible. So it's sort of a fractal design. So something really important about who qualifies for this grant or stipend for the community pot is that it's self-determined. We don't have a process whereby we follow up on you. It's an honor system and an honesty system. And we've made it very broad-based in the design. So it's for people that have any number of systemic or financial barriers. And we don't I think that it's really important that it's self-determined because that people go into this and ask themselves as their circumstances change, rather than us trying to have really fixed guidelines that then actually become difficult to navigate or actually undermine diversity. So I think it's a really great design facet of that. But obviously, this is a list that is not complete. The full policy is longer, and you can all read it at your leisure if you have some, light Sunday afternoon. And the process to apply is really, really simple. So you check out the funds. Firstly, of course, you have to have a project in mind or discuss this with your team. You check the funds available, that there is funds, you fill out the form. I post the form, and then your application is reviewed and shared with the community in the next steps channel. In that 14 days, if people are asking questions, you answer the questions, you clarify your project, you address any objections, and after 14 days, if there's no objections, you're approved. So there is a small wait, but it's just, how we do things in CoLab. That's the extent of the nitty gritty of what we do. And I think it's plenty of context for this. Sorry, my cat is complaining because I have important things, and so the cat always needs attention in that moment. Amy, is there anything big that I've missed? I tried to make a really simplified version of this without getting into the detail of the policy.
Yeah, I think something that's important to remember is that the policy and the grant is there to make the CoLab more diverse. So any work or any application or project that's proposed has to speak to that somehow. So in the case of the stipend, you are working with an already established team within the CoLab, and you become a team member of that team, and the stipend enables you to do work within that team. So it's not, you're funded as an individual, but you're funded as an individual to contribute to a team effort. So for example, currently we are having, I think, 3 people contribute to the translation of the user guide, and they belong or they participate within the Applied Permaculture and Communities team. So they're receiving each individually stipends, but they're contributing to a team effort. With the grant, it's a little different. So with a grant, you can create teams of people who want to deliver something that would make the CoLab more diverse, either to have an educational offering like a workshop to talk about white supremacy, for example, or inclusive writing, or how the CoLab is being presented to the world, or how we are being together. Something, I don't know, these are all just random ideas that come to my head. But in that case, the applicant is 2 or more people. So not as an individual, you're putting something forward for a grant, but as a team. And all the team would have to basically commit then to deliver the project, whatever that is. We limit this kind of grant applications to about 1,000. Then that usually allows for us to be able to process other things like other stipend applications, different grants, so that not all the money is focused on doing the one thing. So we're as diverse as possible also in the use of it. So that's the only thing I would add. Other than this, I greatly encourage you to participate. I think being part of CoLab teams is great. We're all working remotely, so everyone is distributed across different countries, and you get to speak to people who are from different cultures, from different first languages. And the more diversity we have in the teams, the better I think it makes the CoLab in general. But also as an experience, it makes it very rewarding.
And Amy, maybe I can address something here, which is that the grant is quite self-explanatory how you would go about forming a team, designing a project. But for people who are interested in a stipend and joining a team, how would you suggest they go about that and actually start that process?
That's a very good question, I think, especially for new people, because to navigate to CoLab can be a little bit tricky. So the first thing to do is to join the CoLab as a member if you're not a member already. And that involves signing up on the website, which is www.perma.earth. You go on the website, you have a look at Become a Member, which is right on the top in the menu. It explains the process of becoming a member and what that involves. You are then invited to you fill in a form. You're invited to an onboarding meeting, which explains to you what teams are already working and where the active circles are. And then depending on your interest, let's say if you have an interest in ethical technology and you want to contribute to that team working on research or working on user testing for this new ethical Slack ethical alternative that we're testing, and you can get to know what other teams are doing. So depending on your interests, then you can identify which teams are more interesting to you. And you can decide for yourself, okay, my interest is in helping grassroots projects on board faster. So I go with the welcome gardening team and I focus my effort there. You talk with that team, propose your idea, the idea is integrated within the work, they help you make the application, and you're off with your stipend. So that's really the process. I would say step by step is join as a member, find out more about the ecosystem, and don't be afraid to fit in. And also, if there is no space where you see, then you can also ask in the everybody channel. You can ask, listen, my interest is in this, I would like to do this kind of work, I'm interested in maybe applying for a stipend. Are there any open teams that would consider integrating my proposal into their work? And from what I know of the CoLab members, they're pretty welcoming, and if they don't know, they'll try to direct you in the places where you can find out.
Yeah, great. Thanks so much, Amy. No, I think that's really helpful. It kind of makes me think that, maybe that's something that we draw out is like, what is actually the process? Because I think those are the questions I get quite often. And obviously one of the things that you have to be active as a CoLab member, you have to be an active CoLab member to be eligible for these grants. So if you're not active as a CoLab member, the first step is exactly what you said, with its grant and stipend. It's go through the onboarding journey and then kind of integrate in the community. At this stage, Mai, are you ready to present your work and just tell us a little bit about what was the experience, what did it enable, what did it do for you personally?
Yeah, well, everything started with Aaron, who's working on creating food forests in Congo, and working really with all the citizens and especially women to create food forests near the villages to restore and regenerate, not destroy, but very hardly used soil near the villages. So they're trying to, they're doing the teaching, and they are doing the creating forest. They are doing almost everything. And Aaron and the other people who manage this project, they come from very agricultural families, and they are not used to work in administration or research or things like that. So they contacted Kate Swatridge, who's working on permaculture impact and learning how to evaluate projects to then manage to find funds, for example. And the thing is that Aaron understands English very well. He can read English very well, but then in a one-on-one conversation, it's a little bit hard for him to be able to understand or to communicate what he wants to communicate. And they decided that maybe having somebody who could do the bridge would be easy, and that's why I was contacted. I don't know where it came from. I don't know, maybe it was Aline who told Kate that I could speak French and that maybe I could help. So we decided to try. We did a one meeting trial, and we saw that it was very easy for us to work together, the three of us together. And then we decided to apply for the stipend or grant. I don't know, it's the stipend, I think. So we applied for the stipend, and finally the money was coming to me because I was giving the service of being the translator. But it was very easy to fill the form and to get the money, and then afterwards the experience working together was great. We had to change, we had to tweak a little bit our way of working, because first of all it was the internet connection and the bandwidth and everything. It makes working online very hard. And so that was one of the problems or the issues we had. And the other one was that being a bridge, if Kate was talking, I was listening, then I was repeating what Kate was saying in another language, then Aaron was getting the information, and then he was talking to me, and then I had to translate. It was it made meetings maybe not very efficient at the beginning. So in the end, we started having meetings, Kate and myself. So she would explain me, like maybe like a briefing 5-10 minutes before the meeting. She would explain me, okay, today we will work on this. I would like to do this way, or blah blah blah. So I already would know what we were doing. So then the meetings were much easier because I could participate without maybe Kate talking, or I could answer very easily sometimes, and it went really well. I don't know what else I could say. But yeah, it went really well.
Maybe I can ask, what would have happened if you weren't able to do this work, or what happened because you were able to do this work? What was Aaron able to get out of it?
Yeah, what we did was to first we tried to plan all the project to see what the activities they were doing, and then where would like the outputs and outcomes they would have from all those activities. And then we would work together on an Excel sheet to see, okay, for this activity, like for these outputs we are measuring, for example, that diversity of food in the markets would be bigger and like more locally grown food and blah, blah, blah. So if this is one of the outputs we are focusing on, what will be like, what indicators would be proof that this is working, and how are we going to measure this? And like we started making a plan, deciding which one were the best outputs, like the more interesting outputs, and then deciding how to measure it and everything. So in the end, after having like the little plan, we even prepared different sheets for example, a food diary for citizens in the village, for them to write very easily what they were eating every day, to see like if in a couple of years this changes. And like we had time to prepare like different things. And then for Aaron it was easy because like I made the PDFs for him, then he could, like, it was Word documents, so he could change them as well if need be. And then they printed them out, they went to the villages, they gave, I don't know, 150 or 200 forms to a lot of people so they could complete them. So they had like some information at the beginning. And I mean, it helped because like we managed to have a plan for him, and he was very happy that he could like find some like a way to show that their project was doing great things.
Yeah, that sounds like such a great project, and such a great example of also layering in like how you were eligible for the grant, how it made things more accessible, but also like what's the process, what was the team like. And I think I remember this application. I think that Kate was trying to do the work, and Kate maybe originates the idea that she needed someone to help. And this sort of like was the maybe Amy, you know, the history better. But it's sort of interesting the way that this enables emergence within projects, that when we face a barrier, it's able to kind of overcome that barrier for the project. So this is a really good example of the stipend. Okay, Amy, do you have anything that you remember this? You're smiling so nicely. Do you have something you remember of this project, or some impact you want to speak to?
I was only supporting, so I was on the MELS team, which is where Kate originated that stipend idea from. And I'm smiling because I didn't have to do anything, and I was only supportive of it, and they ran with it. And I think that the output is actually fantastic, that we were able to bridge resources that are to support an international community that could actually trickle down to a real impact on the ground with the grassroots projects. I hope that Aaron eventually will make it to the CoLab as a more active participant, which wasn't an output in this case, but actually the other outputs were still very valued and celebrated. Like it was amazing to see what has happened.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. I think translation is such an interesting space to work like that. So Jamie, I'm wondering if you remember your project and you want to present, because we had someone else who's going to present who can't at the moment.
Oh,
And
okay.
I don't know, I wanted to give you the opportunity if you like.
No, I haven't prepared anything to present, but basically, the project that I worked on was an interview we did with somebody. There was somebody else who was actually running the project, and what he was doing was interviewing what different I think it was about recycling in different parts of the world or something like that. And so what we did was, or my contribution was basically to organize the kids that I was working with at the school. And we had 3 kids present what they were doing with regards to recycling at the school. And basically what we were at the school, we're working on recycling plastics, different types of plastics, and and trying to figure out different ways of reusing plastics that were common in our neighborhoods, in our neighborhood. Basically picking up litter and then figuring out what type of plastic it was, and then choosing what was the best use or best way to reuse that plastic. And so we spent about I think about 2 hours or something like that in an interview, and then we presented to him, and he basically compensated the team for presenting that information to him, and that's how it worked out.
Okay, so you were involved in originating, I think maybe CoLab podcast or something.
I thought that might be the case. I don't remember this interview, but if I run a search for it.
Yeah, it was a gentleman, I think. I forget what his name was, and he interviewed a whole bunch of people at CoLab.
Okay, it was Daniel from the
Daniel, yeah. That was I think last year or something like that, a while back. Yeah.
That's really interesting. Yeah.
It was fun. The kids had a lot of fun. Like, basically, I think it was the first time the kids had a chance to interact with somebody international and actually realize that people in different parts of the world were actually working on recycling. And so it actually motivated them a lot to actually continue, figuring out different ways or different uses for the plastics that we're running into. So it was fun.
Interesting.
That's cool.
Yeah, I love that. I open up podcast I could see it's so nice. It's so nice to have that international connection. So to contextualize, the CoLab podcast, I think at that point was funded through the Immersion Festival, which is a similar it's a similar fund but a different process. So the amount is also around £1,000, but there people go through a more community process where people vote and then they kind of contribute to these projects. And that runs from April to October, where the Diversity Fund runs like throughout the year and it also ends in October. But slightly different mechanisms for access, slightly different reporting requirements. But still, it's one of these little places in CoLab where sometimes you get the most fruitful and interesting and engaging projects because it does allow for this sort of emergence and this newness to come in. Excellent. Okay, can you still hear me?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. So I've just got one more thing to share. I might switch my camera off if this is going a bit slowly. And that's just to speak to, we've heard this presentation, I think, of noise, which is really a nice example. And just to speak to what really makes a strong application. And I think that these sort of steps that I've identified where a lot of people want to go for the grant, they want to do something. And this is kind of the most common pitfalls, but also the most simple fixes that you can do to make sure that your projects go through and that they work. And so firstly, you make sure that you meet basic eligibility, whoever you want to work with, whoever's in your team, get on boarded, do that early, become active CoLab members and start to learn the CoLab even before you are applying for the grant. The second is applying for the correct funding type, so this understanding between grant and stipend. Of course, we have to have strong and relevant projects, right? So the design of our projects is really what's going to get us to the end point. If it's unclear what a project does or is going to do, it's not just going to be more difficult to consent to, it's going to be more difficult for you to deliver on and actually prove that you have done what you want to do. So it's difficult to report on that. So that goes hand in hand because you've got clear, realistic objectives, clear deliverables, and you can easily also plan your time and your budget around that. So we have the equitable wage guide that really helps you to go and create like a realistic, lean budget. I think something I didn't write down here, but something that's important to understand is that the invoicing for this happens around October, but the payouts happen in December. So if you're doing what I would call a seeds and spades project, where you're actually going to go and buy implements, you have to be able to carry that cost until it's paid out in December. And I would say it's the one inaccessible design piece that we've got there, balanced against the accountability that we need to keep within this fund. So that is the one piece. Whereas if you're paying for someone's time, it's a little easier to carry time investment to when the payout actually happens. Of course, reporting and deadlines. When you get this fund, you are a next steps contributor, and that means the next step quarterly engagements. And then, go and engage. Once you've got the funding, engage and collaborate with the CoLab members. I think this is a before, after, during step that will make any project within CoLab more successful. So I'm going to leave it there as enough talking. I've also received money from this. There was a fantastic neurodiversity project we did. I could present that, but I'd actually rather have some more sort of question time.
So for one of the challenges that we had with the recycling project that we did at the school was exactly what you just stated. The fact that you don't access, you have to front the money or the funds in order to work on the project. How are some of the ways that people at CoLab have addressed those issues? Because, I'm in Malawi, I'm in Zuzu, and funds are a little strict. And one of the issues that, one of the reasons some of the kids didn't join our recycling program was because of the health issues or health risks, because we had to get gloves, we had to get all these things, just masks and all that stuff, to make sure that the kids were not being exposed to all these unnecessary microbes and all that stuff. So all those challenges. What are some of the ways that you would suggest that we address those upfront funds? How are some ways that I can access upfront funds, or at least access those in order to make projects like this successful? Is there any way to do that besides just coming up, saving up money before and running the project, and then hoping that you get it back at the end of the project?
It's an interesting question, Dumi, and I think it's very pertinent because a lot of projects don't have the means to upfront the cost.
Yeah.
There is the tension also with our accountability policies, and what has happened in the past is that sometimes people take the money up front, but then they don't deliver anything. So all that money is then lost to the community, right? But you are bringing up very good points. I would say if that's pertinent to your project and you are a contributor who we've collaborated with before, so there's a little bit trust. We could do some fundraising from CoLab members who want to donate to cover specific costs that are not time related. So for example, if you need 2 boxes of gloves and that's £10, I'm not making that up now, right? Then we could probably try and fundraise that from the permaculture community in the CoLab and outside for you to be able to cover that cost. What we wouldn't cover up front would be maybe your time. So that would be paid later at the end of the. So that's something that we could do, and we're also open to other suggestions. And we could, I don't know, we could brainstorm around this a little bit. So to still keep within the accountability policies we have, because those protect the resources for the comments, but also to try and bridge the issues. I mean, I've heard also other things, for example, data, mobile data. You need to have the data before you engage. So this
Yeah.
is one. So that's something we're thinking about as a collective. It's not Amy's idea or Vida's. Everyone needs to come together to try and solution around these tensions that we have.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. Yeah. Great. Okay.
Yeah, it's a great point, and just to reverberate it, I think it's a common challenge with projects in Africa. There's a discussion, and I would love for you to join and become active in the Permaculture in Africa circle. But
Yeah.
there is a discussion there about the type of funding needed is different, and how we balance accountability and upfront costs. I can tell you, we did a project through Magic Festival, and I upfront paid for all of the data costs for the team because I was the only one who had that access to cash flow, and
Yeah.
it was just a personal definition where everyone was activists and very grassroots, and I had a salary, and so it was a mutual support thing. I had trust with my team. I knew that they were going to deliver, so I personally upfronted the cost and then was paid back the cost when the payout came. So I was able to recover that. And I, Amy, I'm wondering, this is not a fixed thing because I think it requires more design discussion, but like I couldn't necessarily donate. I'm speaking me as myself in order to input the design, but I would quite happily put a little bit of my money into like a mutual aid fund that would be used for this sort of thing. And I would understand that it's a risk, with the understanding that if the project delivers and pays out, then that would be refunded, even if
Exactly.
I wasn't a member of that
Yeah.
project.
So that could be something that I think we could do from an infrastructure perspective. There's nothing to say it cannot be done, like a micro loan type thing.
Mm.
There is some erosion there with transfer fees and fiscal hosting percentages, so that you don't get back maybe the full amount, or you would get back the full amount, but it costs the project more because
Yeah.
some
Sure.
of that grant. But yes, that would be possible, and that's something the funding circle I think could facilitate. Yeah, so that might be also another idea, right? And something else that came to mind also, I know that there are people who want to fund permaculture projects with small monthly contributions. So they contribute £1 or £2, I don't know, £5 a month. It could go into that kind of microfinance loan, whereas that erosion from the loans could be covered by the cushion of the donations. And they can decide then, the people who donate into it can decide how it's spent.
Yeah.
So you would make your application, you would outline the different costs. Some of it is up, if it's up, some of it is upfront, then it would go to, and this is member led and community led and all of this. So there's always talking to people and presenting what you're doing and building trust and delivering and building trust and delivering.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
more trust you build, the easier the process becomes for everybody.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's many different options there. I know we're diverting a little bit from the D&D fund. So D&D,
Sorry.
as with regards to the D&D fund, there is not the possibility of upfront costs to be covered because that has it's within the agreements we already have with that particular fiscal post, that we can only make payments every quarter and after the work delivered.
Okay. No
I
problem.
think
Thanks very much.
it's a really good point that the way that you approach these funds though comes from a CoLab membership standpoint, and I think what you said about building trust is really important. So I think maybe the other way to look at this to me is to go, what can you do intellectually, digitally, as a kind of digital service, working with a team, something. Right now there's a couple of things with permaculture in Africa, for instance, that you
Yeah.
could go and you could apply for this fund and be paid for. And then if you have the means to keep some of that money, you could use that for the upfront cost for a project that you go and apply at the Emerging Festival or at this fund next year. Assuming
Exactly.
that we have, this funding next year, that is one other way. But the
Yeah.
reason I put it in context of what Amy's saying is that it builds trust, because you can have a smaller amount, you build your reputation, you get a couple of collaborators. Even being here on the call today, it does build a relationship with the people in the CoLab, and I think then people are more willing to take a risk. From each other. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Dumi. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, yeah, because yeah, I'm aware of the permaculture thingy. I'm in Zuzu, and I think Josie from Kada Bay is working with you. She's working with you on. She has the permaculture school in Kada Bay over there. Yeah, so I know her quite well. But then I dropped off the radar for a little bit simply because I was busy. But now I'm actively back, and so we'll probably drop into Permaculture Africa again and just see what's happening over there and see how I can be of help. And I'm very willing to, you know, donate my time, or at least spend time, volunteer my time in other areas, just to, you know, either, as you said, to continue to build trust, and also to just build visibility with teams and also and all that stuff. So thank you for that. Yeah. Okay. Okay, Amy, go ahead. Sorry.
Amy, yeah.
Kitty. Oh.
And then my cat did something awful.
It's time to go for a walk.
He doesn't let me press the mute button. I think he's fed up and wants to go out.
Okay.
Oh wow! My dogs are outside dogs, so.
What I was gonna say was, I think all these interesting conversations, there is room for them. There is room for them in the CoLab, and this is why the meetings are very good, I think, because it plants the seed, but for the seed to germinate and grow, then the only way to do that is to keep at it. And one way of doing this is to stay engaged. And I know you mentioned volunteering, Dumi, but there's also other working opportunities that may be suitable for you. So it's not only about, you know, please volunteer if you can and you want to, but that's not limited to only that. So there's many different opportunities for contributing to the CoLab, building trust and build relationships, also through paid work.
Yeah. Okay. I'm definitely going to look into those more actively. Yeah. Like I said, I was just busy with something else for a while, but now I'm actively back. So, or at least I'm better at managing my time, let's say.
Yeah, that's the real challenge, right?
That's the real challenge. It's like deciding, okay, should I make myself available for this, or should I explore this and so on? So yeah, no. Absolutely. Thank you very much. Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely. I'm actually I'm sorry, I'm very slightly distracted because I said, let me actually go and find these opportunities. So there's in Permaculture in Africa, there's helping to welcome Permaculture in Africa members. Yeah. And also hosting a welcome call for members there. It's kind of I'll copy you to that message actually. I'll send you the message on, I think you're on Slack. Jimmy Banda, right?
Yes. Okay. I'm on Slack.
Okay, so I sent you the message with a couple of different options there. I think that I think that we have the person for the diversity and inclusion webpage.
Okay. I think I volunteered for the welcoming people training at one point, but there were already enough people for that. So I just said, okay, if you ever need me, let me know. I'll do that. And then I was told that the training would be posted online. So I'll just look at that, and I'm very happy to help welcome people.
I think it will reopen shortly. That's the training for the volunteer welcome artists.
Okay.
Well, thank you for coming to this. I don't know, is there anything else we wanted to add, Vida?
That's me. I wanted to ask you came and presented, and I really appreciate your support. If you have questions, if you have other funding that you want to apply for, ideas.
Not really. The only idea I had when you were talking about like saying that we could do different projects, I was wondering if translating documents, permaculture documents, would be something that could have a stipend in the diversity and decolonization grant. I don't know if it would work, like just translations.
Amy, do you know which documents? Like, do you mean like guides, like, or like CoLab documents? Because
Yeah, not maybe not CoLab documents, but for example, with permaculture impact, we've worked on different the food diaries and everything. So maybe translating that into other languages could be maybe interesting, or otherwise. We are working on for the Emergent Festival, we're working on the Rosemary Morrow's TPT books translation for permaculture educators. And so maybe that could be something else, or I don't know, like different documents used by permaculture I don't know, maybe not designers, maybe more grassroots. I don't know, depending on on different subjects, but that are like really interesting resources for the permaculture world. For example,
I think that there's a few different examples there. I think that the documents within the MEL team, like what you've been working on with Kate, I think that could very easily become a stipend project. And it's just a case of like as a team agreeing with it and this is a good project and let's go for it. I think that's really easy and clear. As you know, any team, I think you can also approach other teams and say, I can translate to these messages. Is there anything that you need translated? I think that if it comes to something like Amy, you can correct me, but I think there was a decision that an immersion festival project can't also get this grant at the same time in order to have more diversity, I think.
It's tricky when you have the same project accessing the different grants at the same time. So for example, with the Rosemary Morrow project, the team members are already, there's already a team. So what the stipend would pay for is for an extra person to join that team.
Of course,
and then the effort, also the amount may vary then, because they already have received the stipend, not the stipend, the Emergent Festival amount. And so we're talking about like, it has to be very clear objective. So it's like funding X person to do X amount of hours, and they're funded through the diversity stipend. And what we had before, last year, we had the cases where the one project applied for the Emergent Festival and the diversity stipend, but not with clear objectives. So they couldn't tell us what the stipend was actually used for, because it wasn't delineated. So because of the budget lines the way they are and the way that we want to measure the impact of it, it's important that there's clear delineation. You mentioned also general permaculture documents that are not necessarily used in the CoLab. This is a different type of kettle of fish. It depends on the copyright of those documents.
Of course, yeah.
So because the funding can only be used for documents that carry the CC by SA license. And the output of it would also have to be CC by SA. So that really it could be nothing, it could be fine if the teacher, whoever created it, can be traced back and can ask for their permission, and that they completely understand that the output has to be CC by SA, and that's fine. But otherwise, then we couldn't do it because of copyright infringement. So that's a bit legalese for you, but it's possible. In that case, it wouldn't be a stipend, because a stipend is for one person doing the one job within already an existing team. It would have to be a grant, and for this you need 2 or more people to get together and propose it. Or you find the teams that are willing to integrate this within their work, like, I don't know what team would do this, the CoLab training team or the communication and engagement team, for example. That would be an interesting overlap there. That could be a thing. If you're doing it as part of a already existing team, then it can be an individual and it can be a stipend. That's the difference there. So I know it's a little bit bureaucratic. It sounds complicated, but
it's good to know, because I'm not a translator, and I just do that for helping. But the thing is that since we are in the border here, and we work in Spanish, French, and Basque, and like there's so much information in English, and then when you try to find in other languages, sometimes it's very difficult to find it. So I face that barrier sometimes, and you know, like this in June we've been working with the school to change all the schoolyard at the school, and we had a very nice gathering with everybody, and I brought my books from home for because it was like 3 to 6 years old kids, so like image books and almost all my books were in English or in French, and I was in the Spanish side of the Basque Country and I didn't have those books because they don't have those books in Spanish, and you know, it's sometimes having things translated it's great.
Yeah.
So it was just like in curious.
I think what could be interesting is, I mean, this is outside of this grant pocket, because for books which are copyrighted, this is very difficult. It depends on the author. But if the authors can, we could, in theory, have a group of people who are interested in this to make permaculture books more accessible specifically. We could have a project that contacts these authors for permission to translate, or for paid work, even if it's an author who are already selling and they can access a market, which is I think, I don't know how many millions of people speak Spanish, but lots speak Spanish. So for them, it's accessing another market, a book that they can take to their editors wherever, and that could be a paid micro enterprise thing. Basically, tackling that from a kind of business perspective, especially if with the copyright and with the selling of stuff. For materials that are not copyright infringed, then this grant could be helpful for stipend.
Just maybe a small lead. I know that Eco-Social Design from Andrew Langford, he does an open source. I forget exactly which license he uses, but I'm just thinking of like one author that does that. It does have a Spanish translation already because they have Calle Latina. But I'm just like saying, like, there are people that understand it and I think are willing to do it. And I think the fact that Resme Mara is working already in the Immersion Festival with this book, like, it's a really interesting project. I just love, like, you know, when we meet together and then there is this kind of juice that comes out of it, you know. There's that excitement for me. So I really appreciate that. But yeah, I mean, is there any last burning questions, something that, you know, I would really maybe say, like, my call to action is there is money there. It's 2 months left. I think that this is really now with the consent process, it needs to be smaller projects, but it is an opportunity to do something. I think, Dumi, with your aspirations, like really, if you go, even if it's a 200 or 300 pound small project, it gives you that ability to execute on something, show the community what you can do, demonstrate your work. So I would just maybe encourage and just say that I'm there for you. I have the hours, I'm paid to be the coordinator, so I can assist you. Including there's an applicant who has, you know, who needs a little bit more assistance because they have certain neurodiversities that make it really difficult to do the application. I'm assisting them in the way that we make the application, right? So that's a possibility as well. If there's an actual accessibility issue with the way that the policy and the documents and so on is not easy to kind of get your head around, we can have some time together. Yeah, basically, I'm just saying there's money there, there's work to be done. I'm at your service. And I think that's a good way to maybe end off the call, unless we have burning questions and insights.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Yeah.
I would only add that like completing the application, it's very straightforward and very easy comparing to other kind of grants, or like CoLab can be, like Amy said, can be a little bit tricky in the beginning, and there's a lot of reporting and the quarterly invoicing, and like there's a lot of paperwork and administration. But compared to all that administration from the CoLab, this grant is very easy to apply to. Like it's yeah.
I'm glad. I'm glad, and I think it's like a nice stepping stone into like becoming a next steps contributor, becoming a reporting officer, like it gets you used to the way the CoLab works. And I think that's invaluable. So I think it's a great way to be paid to learn to use CoLab in a more functional way. So yeah. Maybe we do a round of checkouts. We just go a takeaway or a gratitude that we're coming out of here with. And I can just start. But I'm so grateful that people came, and I'm so grateful of the quality and caliber of people that came and the insights and the projects. That yeah, just makes me remember why we do the work. So thank you and check.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much for obviously presenting this and just reminding us about what's out there and the opportunities that exist. And also, yeah, for responding to my question, it's given me insight, or at least a bit more hope, or at least motivation to actually get involved in other things, just so that, you know, I like this concept of being able to build trust just by, you know, contributing and all that stuff. Sorry, my video is not working. I think the application Jitsi, I disabled the video at the beginning because I didn't comb my hair. So I just disabled the video, but then I wasn't able to re-enable it for some reason. I'll work on that and make sure next time I'm online. Thank you.
Good. Thanks for coming. How about you, Evie?
Thank you. Yes, I'm walking away with gratitude. I'm really glad to have had this conversation. And yeah, and it's going to be